Caleb, the PM today has rejected calls to pay reparations. He says that there's nothing like that on the table. He also asserted, though, there was no mention of reparations in the Uluru Statement, but that's not true. In the FOI document that we've got from his own National Indigenous Australians Agency, this is, of course, the document he said he hasn't read. It clearly talks about a financial statement. It clearly talks about a statement that could be calculated as a percentage of GDP. Now, I know he hasn't read it, but he can't keep making stuff up either.
Well, not like a politician to make something up, is it? And look, he's playing silly buggers here because, of course, when he says, well, it's not in the statement from the heart, what he means is it's not in that one page on the front, which is the public front document, and we know that he hasn't read the rest of it. Reparations, obviously, is public poison, so he wants to distance himself as far away from that as possible. But you only have to listen to all the people who were the architects of the voice to Parliament that we could have, Thomas Mayo, etc., who sat on his advisory committee, who have been saying very publicly that the voice is a vehicle to get to things like treaty. It's a vehicle to get to things like reparations. And even if you say, well, the end goal isn't explicitly reparations, we know that treaties are currently being negotiated around the country on a state level. That's another thing that Albanese's played silly buggers on, saying, well, it's no business of the feds because the states are doing it. It will become the business of the feds. But who's to say that those treaties, which are yet to be negotiated, wouldn't have included in them some form of reparations? There are 101 different ways that it could happen. So for the Prime Minister to say no, it's simply not a possibility is bunkum.
But anyway, let me just focus on the important thing. Surely, as part of the Uluru Statement, we have a voice, we have treaty, we have truth-telling. As part of a treaty, won't there be compensation? If there is, I mean, that's not totally unexpected.
This isn't about a treaty, Ben.
But there are three parts of the Uluru Statement.
Yeah, and this is not...
So you're talking about the voice.
This is not about a treaty.
But as part of treaty, which we guess will be a following step...
This is not about a treaty.
Do you foresee that compensation would be paid?
This is not about a treaty. This isn't about that.
The voice is just the means to the end. The voice is just the means to the end.
It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend. Friday, getting down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend. Partying, fun. Looking forward to the weekend. It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend. Friday, getting down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend. Partying. Fun. Looking forward to the weekend.
The voice is just the means to the end.
Well, First Nations people are marking two significant anniversaries today. It's Sorry Day and the day the Uluru Statement was delivered. 5 years later, the new Prime Minister has committed full support for the Uluru Statement, a blueprint carefully crafted as a message to the public.
And to explain the statement, we're joined by Uluru Statement campaigners and absolute superstars, Tila Reid and Thomas Mayo. Thank you so much for joining us on Studio 10. OK, the statement was written after years of consultation, travel in the communities to come up with this statement. It's broken down into three parts. What are the three parts?
The three parts are voice, treaty, truth. And in that sequence, and we have to remember as well, the Uluru Statement's not the first petition, but here we are talking about the Uluru Statement because what was different is we invited the Australian people on this journey. The campaign has gone directly to the people to call the politicians to account.
So it's a grassroots campaign. So the truth element is truth-telling.
Yes.
And to kind of set history right, so it's not just through a pre-colonised lens, I guess.
Well, it's a roadmap to reckoning. And the process and the steps towards that is ensuring that First Nations voices are heard if we want to speak truth and make treaty agreements, then we need to make that first step of actually hearing First Nations in our democracy. And that's something Australia has never done. And now the Australian people have the opportunity to right that wrong.
So the truth-telling is underway, the treaty process is underway for different states and territories. What is the voice? What will the voice?
Well, yes, this is from the Daily Telegraph. James Campbell reports that one of Anthony Albanese's members of his referendum engagement group is not only describing Australia as a nation without a soul, but Teela Reid, who's also a lawyer and academic, is saying this is going to be the first step, the voice, in redistributing